Have I ever told you I'm really into harmonic distortion? Well, I'm going to give you my top 5 harmonic distortion plugins. Let's dig in. So in pro audio, we are obsessed by analogue. But before I tell you why, I'm going to ask you to like, subscribe, share, comment. I know I keep harping on about it, but I'm seeing this channel grow and it's amazing. So thank you for those that have subbed, and there's loads of you that haven't. So go on, subscribe, please. Okay, so we are obsessed with analogue. We always have been. Why? Well, basically it sounds really, really good. We're obsessed with things like analogue mixing desks, analogue hardware like compressors and EQs and preamps, and even good old-fashioned tape machines too. So what makes them sound so good? It's actually dead simple. When a signal goes through any of this equipment, all the sort of components of that equipment, which might be transistors, capacitors, valves, all that cool stuff, they all add a kind of harmonic signature to it, which is called harmonic distortion. And that adds up to a brilliant sound. Now we call it harmonic distortion because this distortion usually happens in harmonics. So when you've got an A playing, you'll have distortion which is an octave above that and an octave again, etc, 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 and it really helps to thicken out the sound. Back in the olden days we used to use tape machines instead of Pro Tools, and they had a brilliant harmonic signature. Tape's actually a lossless format, it's not bound by capacity like a computer is, and actually you were quite encouraged to kind of distort tape, because when you did distort tape it was really pleasing, unlike when you distort digital, which is really, really ugly. Again, it's the same thing with consoles. When the signal goes through, even just running a signal through a console adds this harmonic distortion and it sounds great. So why are we not using them anymore? Really simple answer: convenience. Pro Tools won the convenience war. Using analog is really expensive. Buying analog gear costs a lot, and also the running and maintaining of it is really high as well. The amount of power that this stuff draws is pretty massive, so your electricity bills are going to be huge, and also they need to be regularly maintained as well. And in the case of tape machines, they need to be regularly calibrated as well, which is a total pain in the arse. So when Pro Tools came out, it was really, really slow. Rendering was an overnight task, but as computers got faster, then Pro Tools came into its own, and eventually it basically took over. So rather than having to run all this stuff and it be super complicated, particularly with things like editing, Pro Tools did it all instantaneously and essentially won that war. The problem with digital is it's quite sterile, and we were really missing that harmonic signature that analog gave. So over the years there's been a massive rise in harmonic distortion plugins that are trying to recreate that, and I got really into this. I've talked before about the Lo-Fi plugin, which was the first harmonic distortion plugin that I ever used. I discovered it reading a Sound on Sound article, and I tried it for myself and I was like, wow, this is brilliant. It really enhanced the sound, it made it sound a little bit more analog, and I loved it, and I started going a bit crazy with it. I was using harmonic plugins on absolutely everything, and unfortunately that wasn't the way to go, and I've learnt since then that I should be using them for specific reasons. So why am I going to be using a harmonic distortion plugin? Well, there's a few different reasons. Number one, to make it sound a bit more analog. Number two, to give it some colour. Number three, to give it some definition. And number four, to help it kind of jump out the mix a little bit, or maybe even bring it forward in the mix. So what I did wrong for a long time was basically put it on absolutely everything. And what I was getting was quite crunchy sounding mixes that had an audible hiss. And when you send something to mastering where there's some quite heavy compression and limiting, that hiss is brought up and it's basically brought to the forefront. So I was sending stuff off to master and I could hear this hiss, particularly in quieter parts of the song. I didn't really understand why. That's when I kind of decided that I would start dialing back on my harmonic distortion use. And another kind of key moment was I kind of realized that I was leaning heavily on analog style plugins, or plugins that were emulating analog processors that had harmonic distortion built in. Analog style plugins, particularly stuff that's emulating analog hardware, adds a harmonic signature to it already. So what I was doing was adding harmonic distortion to harmonic distortion, and it was just a bit messy. One of the best things that ever came out was a mix control in plugins, which allow you to dial dial in a little bit of the unaffected and a little bit of the affected sound, and that's something that I lean really heavily on. So there's a history lesson and a bit of a warning for you guys as well. Harmonic distortion does sound amazing, but it's dead easy to overuse it. However, I still lean heavily on harmonic distortion in all of my mixes. I just go much more gingerly on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my top 5 harmonic distortion plugins that I use in a lot of my mixes. So let's get started, and in no particular order, we'll start off with number 1, which is Looptrotter Saturate. So this one's fairly new to me. I've only been using it for maybe a year or two, and it comes with the Plugin Alliance Mega Bundle. It's of course modelled after a piece of hardware, which is super cool. I would love to have a shot of it, and I really do love this plugin. I use it a lot on vocals, and I'm going to show you a demonstration on vocals. And there's just something really cool and really vibey. Let's have a look. So looking at the plugin, what I've done is I've used the preset analog feel, but I've adjusted it for my own use. I've got my drive sitting at about 28%. This magic control, which I always find adds a little bit of weight or depth to the sound, is sitting at 22%. And then I've got the mix at 23%. So not really using it an awful lot at all. So really just bringing in a small amount of this harmonic processing to enhance the sound. So this is on my vocal bus. Let's listen to it without. And now let's listen to it with it. So it is really subtle, and I want it to be really subtle. Remember, overuse of this can be really quite bad. But what it's doing is thickening up the sound, it's making it feel a bit more present, a bit more weighty, and a bit more forward. Let's toggle it off and on, and you can hear the difference for yourself. So when it's bypassed, the vocal kind of just sinks back and it's a little bit lost, which isn't what I'm looking for. This is a brilliant plugin for really adding vibe, weight, and bringing this forward in the mix. I use it all the time on vocals. All right, next up, number 2, Decapitator by Soundtoys. Now, I've talked loads about Soundtoys. They are a brilliant plugin company, and all of their plugins just seem to add vibe. Decapitator is a brilliant harmonic distortion processor that really lets you tune in what it is that you're doing. It's got 5 modes attached to it, and they include a tape machine preamp, a Neve console preamp, an EMI console saturation, and 2 flavors of the amazing Culture Vulture, which is another hardware unit which is absolutely fucking awesome. What I like about this is that you can tune the distortion to certain frequencies, and that is really useful. It's got a tone knob on it, which I'll show you in the demonstration, and it really allows you to kind of dial in where that harmonic signature is being added to. I use it a lot on bass, but I do also like it on snare drums occasionally as well, and also vocals. Anything that I really want to have a little bit of vibe to. Let's check it out. Okay, so this is Decapitator, a brilliant plugin from Soundtoys, a company that just makes stuff that adds vibe all the time. So I've got it set to this setting here, the T setting, which is a Culture Vulture emulation. And what I've done here is I've dialed in the tone to the sort of darker side of the force, and I'm trying to get note definition from the bass. The drive is only up at 3. I've got a bit of a high cut as well, just to try to get rid of some of the stuff that isn't needed, and my mix is sitting at about 40%. So what we'll do is we'll solo the bass first of all and listen to it without it. And then with it. So again, this is super subtle, but what I'm hearing is more definition from the low end. I'll toggle it off and on. So yeah, I mean, this is really subtle, guys. If you're struggling to hear it, if you're listening to this on a phone, it's going to be a big struggle. However, how it sounds on its own doesn't matter a fuck. It's how it sits in the mix. So let's listen to it. We'll start with it off.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes, holy can sleep. You call the police, you say it's all just lies, the world is fast asleep.
It's all about the low end here for me. It's adding low end definition. And it also kind of makes it sound a little bit warmer as well, which is quite interesting. Let's do it again.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes, holy can sleep.
So it's tightening up the low end, it's making the notes a bit more defined. I really love it, and this is on my bass bus all the time. I do use this on other things as well, but it is, as I said, always on my bass bus. Alright, next up, Blackbox. Right, this is another super cool plugin that I use all the time. It lives on my master bus pretty much 100% of the time. It's emulated after a piece of hardware and it's included in the Plugin Alliance Mega Bundle. Definitely worth checking out. Let's have a listen to it. Okay, so this is Blackbox and it is a fantastic plugin. So this is a setting that I've developed myself. It sits on my mix bus 100% of the time. Looking at the plugin, I've got the EQ frequency set flat, so it's just basically affecting the whole thing. I've got my saturation sitting here at 39%. I've got it on pentode at 50%. Got a little bit of triode at 59%, and then I've got a little bit of air at 43%. However, the big thing here is my mix control is set to 34%. So again, super subtle. What this means is that most of the sound that you're hearing is the unaffected sound, and you're only hearing 34% of the affected sound. Let's turn it off on the whole mix.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes.
And then bring it in.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes.
Instantly adding clarity to the mix, and again, this sort of concept of bringing it forward. Let's toggle it off and on.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes, holy can sleep. You call the police, you say it's all just lies, the world is fast asleep.
Love what this does. It's super subtle again, as is all of the harmonic processing I try and do, because I've explained before I used to go overboard with this, but it is really adding presence. It's bringing it forward. I love it. Let's check it out one more time.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes, holy can sleep. You call the police, you say it's all just lies, the world is fast asleep.
Yeah, really exciting plugin, brilliant, but again, use it super subtly. Okay, next up, the OG for me, Lo-Fi. So this was my first entry into harmonic distortion processors years and years ago. And whilst the technology has really come on leaps and bounds and there's loads more available since this came out, it's still really useful. It comes with Pro Tools, so it's essentially a free plugin. And I did do a video recently on free plugins that are amazing, and this was really high up on there. It's a really basic plugin, but it sounds fantastic, particularly on toms, which is the thing that I use it the most on. I haven't really found anything else on toms that sounds as good as this. It really adds a massive weight let's go and check it out. Okay, so as I said, this is my OG harmonic saturator. I've been using this thing for years. It was the first one that I ever kind of came across, and this lives on my toms pretty much 100% of the time. I love what this does to toms, and all I'm doing is using the preset tape saturation, nothing else. I'm making no adjustments, and again, as with all of this, it is really subtle. Distortion's sitting at 1.2 and saturation sitting at 0.1, and there's no noise at all. So let's listen to what this does to the toms in isolation, and then on. So it's really thickening up that tom and it's adding presence, but again, doesn't matter how it sounds on its own. How does it sound in the mix? We'll start with it off.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes, holy can sleep.
So again, very subtle, but it's adding enough to bring those toms out. One more time.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes, holy can sleep.
It really affects the low end of the toms, and I love big, low, thundering toms, and this really helps me achieve that. All right, next up, number 4, Radiator by Soundtoys. So yeah, another Soundtoys plugin on the list, and it's not sponsored by Soundtoys, I promise. But hey, if you subscribe and I get enough subs, maybe I could get some sponsored videos. That would be dead cool. So Radiator is a really simple sort of like console preamp distortion style plugin. And someone who I respect a lot introduced me to this on snare drums. That guy is Ramesh Doganganda. He's an amazing producer and mixer based in Wales. He's done some incredible work with bands like Florence Black and Bring Me the Horizon. I love this on snare. It adds something that I can't really describe. It adds a bit of weight, a bit of thwack, something, energy. It's great. So why don't we just check it out? Okay, so this is Radiator, another Soundtoys vibe machine. Love this thing, and I use it on the snares an awful lot. First things first, change this setting to clean. It defaults to noisy, and it is exactly that. It's noisy. So what I'm doing is I'm driving it harder by bringing the input up. I'm compensating for the added volume by bringing my output down. I'm bringing up a little bit of bass to add weight to the snare and a little bit of treble to add snap to the snare, and then I'm dialing back my mix. I'm actually using quite a lot of mix for this one. So let's listen to it in isolation, and we'll turn it off. And then on. And then we'll toggle it off and on for you. So it's really useful. It's again bringing it forward, giving it a bit more presence and all that good stuff. Let's listen to it in context of the mix. I'll start with it off.
Change you down, you get
And then on.
behind the eyes, holy can sleep.
So yeah, it's definitely adding presence to it. Again, it's super subtle. I'll toggle it off and on again without me talking in between.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes, holy can sleep. You call the police, you say it's all just lies, the world is fast asleep.
Yeah, brilliant plugin. As I say, I use this a lot. And again, one of the big things for me is just being able to dial in a little bit of EQ into that. So if I want extra sort of bite to it, I can bring this treble up. Let's try it.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes.
And if I wanted to bring in extra weight, I can dial this up.
Change you down, you get behind the eyes.
But with all of this, I'm trying to work subtly. All right, number 5, Vertigo VSM3. Another plugin which is based off hardware. The hardware unit is super expensive, boutique, but this plugin emulation sounds amazing, and it's a part of, again, the Plugin Alliance mega bundle. I use this plugin on a few things. Sometimes it's on my master bus, but the thing I use it most on is guitars, and I've developed a setting myself which I use an awful lot when I need to add a little extra something to it. It sounds amazing, but hey, let's just check it out. Okay, this is the Vertigo VSM3. It is a brilliant processor, and I use this a lot on guitars. What I will say is I don't use it on all guitars. It's not one of these things that is permanently on. It's just when I need it. And I use this to basically add a bit of weight to guitars that maybe feel a bit thin. So the guitar bus this is on, it was all captured using the Friedman IRX, which is a preamp that has a valve preamp, but it has IRs built into it. So I wanted to kind of add a little bit of analog goodness to that. Not that it sounded bad, I just thought it could have sounded a bit bigger. So I developed these settings ages and ages ago for guitars. And all I'm really doing here is just adding harmonic excitement to the lows and to the mids, again to try and increase the weight. Let's listen to it on its own without it. And then with it. As ever, super subtle, but it's definitely got more weight to it now. Toggle it off and on. Love what that's doing. It's definitely adding analog weight to this, which it really needs. It just felt a little bit thin before that. In the context of the mix,
Change you down, you get behind the eyes. Holy can sleep. You call the police. You say it's all just lies. The world is fast asleep.
really brilliant plugin. I'm loving what that is doing. You know, without it, it feels almost kind of on its own and a little bit foreign, but with it, it's got that kind of weight that the rest of the track has, and it just helps it sit much nicer. So yeah, feel free to nick my settings. Not that they're particularly complicated. Okay guys, I hope you found that useful. I really do love these processors and I use them across so many mixes. Again, learn the lesson that I'm teaching you, which is don't overuse this stuff. You'll notice that the mix control is often really low and I'm using it super subtly. If you use it subtly, it's really useful, but if you overuse it, you're going to run into problems, particularly things like hissing and just general crunchiness across your mixes. Your mixes can also sound quite harsh when you're using a lot of this stuff, so just go easy on it, okay? And if you did find this useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. If you have a particular harmonic processor you like, comment below. And also, if this was game-changing for you, please do consider buying me a coffee. It really makes it worthwhile. Alright, see you next week. Cheers!